Welcome back to another episode of What Are You Made Of with your boy, Mike C-Roc. I am so glad to be here again today. Thankful for you, the listener. Thankful for the support and engagement that you've given me over this last 2 years. And, I can't say it enough, guys. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Today, I have a guest that I was fortunate enough to be on his show as well. Michael Levitt is the founder of the Chief Burnout Officer of the Breakfast Leadership Network, a San Diego and Toronto-based burnout media firm. He is an in-person and certified virtual speaker, certified in NLP and CBT, which we're going to get into, CBT therapist, a Fortune 500 consultant, and an author of the new book, Burnout Proof. Michael hosts the Breakfast Leadership Show, a top 200 global podcast on iTunes. Michael's a top 20 global thought leader on HR and culture and Thinkers 360, and a former healthcare executive overseeing $2 billion in budgets. Michael, welcome to the What Are You Made Of podcast.
Great to be with you today, C-Roc.
Hey man, I'm good. We had a good time on your show, and I was looking forward to this when it was coming up here. And I want to start the show off like we always do, though, by asking you, Mike, what are you made of?
Made up of part American, part Canadian. No, seriously. No, I think the best way to describe me is what I'm made of is my experiences have made me who I am today. And some of those experiences were awesome. Some of them were horrific. But at the end of the day, they've made me who I am today. And I love who I am today. And I love doing what I get to do. So that's who I am. That's what I'm made of.
Of course, well, we're going to dig now. So we got to hear your story, man. Like, what's your story? What's the horrific things? What's the great things? Like, give us a couple.
Yeah, the horrific thing, we'll start off with the bad and finish up with the dessert, which is good, is back in 2009, I had what I refer to as my year of worst case scenarios. So over a year from May 2009 to May 2010, I had a heart attack that should have killed me. I lost my job during the Great Recession. My car was repossessed and my home was foreclosed, all in a year. And all of those things happened because I was completely burned out. And that burnout created all of those scenarios to happen. Now, thankfully, I recovered from all of those experiences, rebuilt my life, and I want to frame something really quick. If you're burned out or you're burning out, you in all likelihood don't have to reinvent your life. You got to make some adjustments here, and then we can talk about that in a minute, but you don't have to reinvent your life. In my case, I had to, and I'm thankful that I did, because now I live the life that I enjoy doing, and I work with organizations and speak at conferences and get interviewed all the time on burnout and what it is and how to prevent it.
So let's go into defining that, though. What does burnout mean to you, and the definition of burnout?
Burnout is prolonged stress. It's when you're overwhelmed with life, circumstances, situations. You just aren't enjoying life, and it's prolonged stress. If you don't have stress in your life, you won't burn out, because burnout needs that prolonged stress. Now, when you ask, well, how long is prolonged? Well, for some people,
that's what my next question was.
Yeah, some people it can be a few weeks, some people it can be a few months, some people it can be a few years. It really depends on what they do in life and what that stress is doing to them.
So you went through this stage. Was the heart attack the final straw for you to really, I mean, obviously the other things fell after that were probably a result of that, but the heart attack woke you up, so to speak.
Oh, it definitely did. When you're laying on a procedure table before you go into the operating room and the cardiologist looks at you and says, "You don't know how lucky you are to be alive right now." That is, I don't know, short of a brick to the head, that should hopefully wake you up. And I realized, ooh, okay, well, I guess I'm very fortunate to be alive. I should probably make some adjustments in my life. Of course, at that point, I had no idea what I needed to do, but I knew that I had to make some adjustments, because if I didn't, then he wouldn't get the opportunity to tell me how lucky I am to be alive, because instead of seeing me, he would be viewing me. And I don't want to be viewed just yet.
Yeah, no, you have a big purpose on this planet, man. And you've already, what, 10, 11 years now have been going after it. And I'm sure the way you disseminate your information, you have made a big impact in many people's lives, not just one, but many. And so your purpose wasn't done yet. And that's why you're still here, brother.
Yeah,
So
I firmly believe that. I firmly believe that. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take this challenging situation that happened to me, learn from it myself, and then share those experiences so people can avoid their own year of worst case scenarios.
yeah, and so before we get into some of your content and what you do, talk about the good.
I think the good is being able to reinvent myself and designing a life that is beneficial to me, which then benefits others. I was what I like to refer to as a reformed, or I am a reformed people pleaser. Prior to the heart attack, always wanting to do good for everybody, you know, driven, type A personality, all of that stuff, which in its own is good. Drive is good. It helps with success. It helps you reach your goals in life and all of that. But I was doing it and not taking care of myself at the same time. And I was just going, pedal all the way down and not letting up and not taking a time for breaks or gassing up or anything like that. So that took a toll on me. The good part is being able to do the things that I did, live the life that I live, be able to accomplish quite a bit, but not be burned out. That's the good thing, because then that way I can say, look, you read my bio. Okay, that's a lot of stuff. I think about that and I go, wow. And a lot of that stuff has happened in the last 5 years.
Wow, man. Yeah.
But I'm not burned out. I
Yeah.
feel good. My days are good. My schedules are good. I feel good, which is great during a pandemic to feel good. But being able to do all of those things over the last 5 years or so, I look back at them like, well, how did I do it without being burned out? Because my similar career path before my heart attack, there was a lot of things I accomplished too, but it was just how I approached them and balancing them and making sure that I did what was right for me, that was beneficial to me, that I could benefit others. So I'm still able to help and serve. I just have to make sure that I'm serving myself first.
Yeah. So before we get into that, I want to basically, I tell you, I can relate to that what you've accomplished over the last 5 years. It's been about 2 years since I started my journey in this realm. I have a mortgage division that I run, but in the last 2 years for me, man, I look back and say, wow, like you've done a lot. Like you've jammed it in there, but it's a powerful thing that you can accomplish when you have intention and commitment and you take massive consistent action every single day and show up, taking care of yourself, of course. But when you do that, it adds up exponentially. And you just don't realize it each day when you're going through it. Like this conversation I'm having with you, I did 300 interviews last year and I'm just doing it every single day, showing up, knowing that I'm going to get better. The reason I started doing so many is I was going to get better. I'm going to get better. And I had this purpose, this burn inside of me it can't be put out. And, but as long as I take care of myself and the other things you're going to tell us about burnout, but as long as I had that, I knew every day I just do a little bit, a lot each day, but a little bit towards that mission, right? Is that what you kind of did over that 5 years? Is just you were so committed, and then every day you just showed up and you put something towards it, right?
Yeah, every day. And what works for me, and this, of course, took several years to develop and figure out, is I needed to match my energy levels to the work that I wanted to do. And I tend to be more active in the mornings as far as tasks and anything that's heavy lifting or analytical in nature or creation, for example, writing articles or whatnot. The afternoons I tend to reserve for phone calls, follow-ups, watching some training videos on something if I'm learning something new or whatnot. Because I realized that, that's where my energy levels were. So being able to be your own boss, you schedule those things to match up. And then I took it further and I had themes for every one of my days. So Mondays, because I'm a public speaker, Mondays I do a lot of research and follow up with event planners on speaking engagements. Tuesdays I tend to have intro calls or follow up calls. Wednesdays tend to be the day that I record podcast interviews. Thursdays and Fridays I don't schedule. I leave those blank because when opportunities come up, like to be on your show, for example, or tomorrow I have a phone call with a colleague out in LA regarding a new business venture opportunity. If I had scheduled my full week, then that call wouldn't have happened until maybe next week or the week after, and there may be somebody else that they have in mind. Well, it's like, let's talk Friday morning. And there we are, because I was able to schedule my days in a way. Now, if for some reason nothing comes up on a Friday, guess what? I have Friday to just be and do whatever I
Yeah.
want
Yeah, I
and
love
be
that.
creative. And as an entrepreneur, and this, we're all guilty of this. We're like, oh, I got all this time. I'm going to work on this and this and this and this. Time out. Go and this is one of the things that I do myself and I tell people to do. If you don't have a strict schedule, like in your situation, you have your podcast interviews and things like that, and those are things you're doing every day. So what you do is you have what I like to call your must do or your most important tasks. Pick 2 or 3. Don't do any more than 2 or 3. You can have a list of all the things you want to accomplish. That's great, but pick 2 or 3 to do every day. When you get those done, you work on those first before you do anything else. When you get those done, very tempting to go deeper into the list. Like I'm moving now, I can do that. It's best that you don't. And the reason being is reflect back on how you were able to get those things done. What did you do? What was the common factor there for you to be able to complete those things in the time that you took? And it gives you opportunity to have clarity on, oh, okay, if I'm efficient this way doing this, then maybe I can do it that way too. Plus, again, it doesn't overwhelm your day. Now, if you're like itching and you feel like you're twitching because you need to do something, then okay, look at something on the list that you could do in a short period of time and finish it. That way you're not beating yourself up on it. But don't go tackle and say, well, I got 40 things done today. Great. How do you feel? I'm wiped. You don't want to be wiped at the end of the day. You want to be fulfilled. You want to say, okay, that was a decent day. I accomplished the things I want to get. I'm good. But you want to have energy for other things in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's an interview or taking your spouse out to dinner or playing with your kids or going out and golfing or going out for a drive or, watching, a sporting event or whatever the case may be. That way you're focused on those things and enjoying those things.
Yeah. I just did something recently. I've been, working on my book. It's finished now. It's going to design and all that. It's going to be out here in March. But
Awesome.
I've been promoting like a maniac on podcasts and all that, and just filling my days. And I don't. This isn't hard work to me. Like, so it's not like I get burnt out. But I stopped golfing while I wrote my book, and I used to golf like, man, I'm almost embarrassed to admit this, 3 times a week. So I got really good, and I was having a good time. But that's a lot of time that could be spent on other things. So I want to get back to golfing once a week. So I cleared out my Fridays. I
Nice.
blocked off my Fridays going forward on my calendar. I didn't ever do that before. Monday through Friday was book it up, Dano. Book it up. Saturday and Sunday, I'll refresh. But that's not enough because I work more than 8 hours a day. And so I felt that Fridays was the day that I needed to maybe work in the morning with my team, get my team at the mortgage company fired up and ready in the morning. And then the rest of the day, be open to go golf and network and be outside. And, and it's just the fact that it hasn't gotten here yet because I did it in March, right? But just the fact that I did it and knowing that has made a difference in the way I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I caught it early because I think I have this trigger inside of me that went off and I was like, wait a minute. Okay. Got to get a handle on this now. And then I don't wait and think about it. I just go do it. Like tell my assistant, hey, Kim, we need to get this done. This is what I'm feeling right now. I need to get this done now. And we take action on it. I think that a lot of people, and you could speak to this, they don't take action right away. They think about it and think about it and think about it. Then they feel bad about it. And then they're trying to work their way through that feeling. And best thing to do when you feel that, like that trigger goes off or that alarm goes off, whatever it is you agree, take action as soon as possible and do something about it.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. It's, like Brian Tracy, big corporate speaker, has been speaking forever. He wrote the book, Eat the Frog First. It's one of those things. It's like, yeah, this thing's bugging me and nagging me. And the majority of the time, those things that bug you and nag you, and you got to get them done. Once you get them done, one, you have the sensation, okay, that's done. Secondly, you have the emotion of that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And you get it done and over, and you carry this cloud around with you all the time. And a lot of that ties into, the language and, kind of jump in a little bit in the NLP, the language that we have bouncing around our head, the things that we say to ourselves, the programming, the behaviors and the habits dictate how those things happen. For you to block off your Fridays, you recognized, okay, I want that day. That is important for me to have those days free for golfing. Now, if it's a rainy, lousy day, okay, well then
reading
or,
like, let me read a couple hours, like when
yeah, just
uninterrupted reading. That would be
Exactly.
good.
Well, that's the key too. When you shorten up your work week, because yeah, as entrepreneurs, we can go, and other people as well, depending on type of work they do, you know, it's easy to fill up 7 days with stuff. It's easy,
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
problem. When you narrow down when you can work and you say, okay, I'm going to work 4 days a week instead of five, all of a sudden you realize I've got 4 days to do this instead of five. It cuts out a little bit of the elbow room or the laziness or the I'll get to it type of thing and gets you focused. It gets you focused on, I need to get this done because it's
Mhm.
due next week. I need to work on it now. It cuts down the barriers of, I don't know, I got, maybe I'll do it tomorrow. No, you don't have tomorrow to do it. You have to
Yeah.
do it
Yeah.
today. And that's why, with this working remotely and the pandemic and what's we're going to look like afterwards, I hope organizations will take a strong, hard look at shortening up the workday and work week for people because it cuts out the fluff. Because we all know this, all of us that have ever been in a 9 to 5 job, how many hours do we actually work? Okay. We don't work 8. We just don't.
Mhm.
We've, for most of us, some might, but most of us, productivity, you're getting 3 or 4 hours out of this 8 hour block. So getting away from this 8 hour block of thing and saying, okay, here's the work you need to do. Here's the tasks that are assigned you as an employee. Here's when it's due. Go do it.
Get it done as
Yeah.
fast as possible and correct as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then if they're really efficient on it, fight the temptation as an employer to give them more work initially because you want to figure out, okay, how did you get that done so quickly? What were some
Mhm.
things you could do? Could you apply that somewhere else? Can
Yeah.
we apply those lessons across the team for people to be more efficient? All of a sudden you have a more efficient team and gives them opportunity to be creative and everything else.
So let's go into NLP.
Yeah.
Talk
Yeah.
about what that is and what it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, neurolinguistic programming. And the reason why I got that certification and also in CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy was when I was working with teams and individuals, I was seeing a lot of patterns as far as why people burn out. What are the circumstances? And a lot of it came back to the programming in our brains, the type A personalities, the driven personalities. Okay, why is this important to you? Well, the programming that they have, whether it was self induced or if it was lessons and growing up, maybe they had very proactive parents that wanted them to be the best and took them to all of the different activities to really make them, successful in life and all of that. That programming got in their mind saying that this is what success looks like. This is what work looks like. I have to put in the 75 hours in the office as an executive, which means your employees look at that and they often emulate their boss. So they think, okay, well, I guess I have to. And next thing you know, you've got an entire organization that's burned out. And that's what I was seeing. I'm like, okay, well, why is this going on? And then boils down to it's okay, people are emulating their leaders. Their leaders are working these crazy hours and they're deeming everything as an emergency when for most organizations it's not an emergency. Urgent, important, of course. Emergency, no. That's reserved for hospitals. I try to tell people that. It's
Yeah,
like,
especially in the mortgage business, man. I mean,
well, I know you
a lot of
guys,
documents.
you guys are, you guys are crushing it right now, and I know it's an industry that mortgage people are putting in some really long hours because everybody's moving.
Yeah.
It's like people are moving out because they don't
Refinances.
refinancing, moving. They're going to work remote forever. Well, we'll see if that actually happens, but working remote forever, so they're leaving big town areas like San Francisco, for example. There's a big exodus there. Other big cities, a lot of people are leaving and going out to the burbs or out into the country because they've got great Wi-Fi or internet connectivity, and they're like, I want to be a farmer. I'm like, have you ever farmed before? Yeah, you've been a city dweller, sidewalks and concrete forever, and all of a sudden you're going to raise chickens and ducks. Let me know how that goes. I do know somebody that did that, and I'll send them YouTube videos and say, here, watch this guy. He was from Boston, okay? So, and he's running a farm now. It's like so it's pretty cool. But the end of the day is the programming and the language that we use in ourselves dictates how we live our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And we think, okay, this is important. I need to do this. I need to do this. Just like in your situation where you realized and you had communications with yourself about, all right, I'm going to take Fridays off to golf because I know that's good for me. It's good for you from being an active person, going out, breathing fresh air instead of office air, getting
Competitive.
outside, competitive. You get to use all the bad words when your ball doesn't go where you had told it to go. I hit you to go there. Why did you go there?
That doesn't ever
Um,
happen.
no, I know. It's never had. I've never heard a single bad word on the course ever. Never ever. I hear laughing all the time. Maybe it might be tears too. I don't know. But yeah, very frustrating little ball, but very entertaining to say the least. But so you had the language and the conversation about that, the language that we grew up in. And I'm not just talking about English or Spanish or things like no, but the things we heard and patterns and beliefs and the things that we consumed from an information standpoint or knowledge standpoint, all of that plays a part in how we approach life. And what I was finding was a lot of people that are prone to burnout are very driven. This is how it's supposed to be. This is how it should be done, kind of thing. And it's like, no, that's doesn't have to be that way. I was of the same ilk
Yeah.
before my burnout. So I shifted from that and I said, I need to understand this a little bit better so I can help people, kind of, change the conversation that they're having with
Yep.
themselves a little bit and look at things in a different light to see if it makes sense for them. I don't tell them, okay, do this, do this. No, it's like they need to, it has to work with them. It has to be, what they see. And the cognitive behavioral therapy is the same thing. You Burnout is a choice. And I know a lot of people go, what in the world do you mean by that? No one chooses to burn out, but the choices, behaviors, thought patterns, beliefs create scenarios for you to approach burnout, the stress situations. And again, prolonged stress turns into burnout. We'll talk about the presidential election. I'm not going to go into candidates or anything like that. Doesn't matter who you voted for. It was a stressful time for everybody. And people were glued to the television, watching things leading up to the election. And then, of course, the subsequent days afterwards, people were watching and just consuming all the negativity that was coming from it and the anxiety and all of that. And that stresses you out. Well, prolonged stress turns into burnout. So people were getting election burnout on top of, oh, by the way, we're in a pandemic right now and everything that's coupled with that. So all of these prolonged negative situations that we've been facing can create very stressful situations. And of course, that can lead to burnout, which has mental and physical problems, as you heard with my situation.
So what's a practical application of NLP? How would that look? Give me like a specific.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, how I approach it, and there's different ways to do it. There's the traditional textbook ways to do it, but what's worked for me in working with individuals and with teams is, basically a technique that we learn in therapy is, chunking up and chunking down. So you ask a question, and then you say, okay, well, why do you feel that way? And what was the experience that led you to that conclusion? What do you think about this? How would you apply it? What would you do with that? Like, for example, for somebody that, and was on a show the other day, organization, multiple businesses, husband and wife team. The husband started recently looking and working with financial advisor. It's like, okay, we're going to want to retire at some point. His wife thinks retirement is one of those dirty words you can't say. She has no interest in retiring ever. She says, I'm having too much fun doing all this work. He's of the opinion, it's been fun, but you know what? I wouldn't mind doing some things and scaling some things back. So how do we do it? So interesting dynamic in how that goes. But with her, if I was working with her, I'd say, well, why do you feel it's important for you to continue working and not stop working? What are some experiences that you've had? What about your family? Did they do that, or were they struggling? And you'll find out, and I didn't have this exercise with her, but you've seen it in some people where they say, well, my parents or my grandparents grew up during the Great Depression and they
Hmm.
had nothing. So
Mm-hmm.
now I have to make sure that I am never in that situation. So they're afraid of not having
Yep.
anything. So they are driven, they keep going, because they're like, I'm going to stockpile all this and I won't have to worry about it. It's like, well, what's that number? And she probably couldn't tell you. I don't know, but she
Yeah.
probably couldn't tell you how much she could live. And, I know for me, if I won the lottery, okay, jackpot, let's say it's $60 million. Okay, living, of course, you do the stupid stuff, you buy and pay off everything. You're like, okay, I want property here, here, and here, and you get all that stuff done. And then you say, okay, I'm going to pay myself a salary that's comparable to what I'm making right now. It's like, how long would it take me to spend that? Well, in most situations, it could be 100 or 200 years. Now, unfortunately, we see a lot of people, unfortunately, that win lotteries, and they
Go broke.
they're broke. They're broke within 5 years because
Yeah.
they don't have a plan for it. So again, it's those thoughts of, okay, programming. Why is that important to you? What are some of the things that you're telling yourself from your experiences or experiences that you inherited from others? That's how I approach that.
Yeah.
And then the behaviors and the cognitive behavioral stuff is your beliefs, your habits, all the things. Again, they really tie in well together, because I kind of blend the two of them when I'm working with
Makes
people,
sense. Yeah.
because there's so many similarities. And again, it was never my thought, when I went into this work, that I would, go say, okay, let me study NLP and cognitive behavioral therapy. I was aware of them, but I didn't. I'm like, why would I go in there?
Mhm.
But I realized that it was really important for me to help bring awareness to the teams that I've worked with, or the individuals I work with, to kind of come to their own conclusion of where they're at and why this is important.
So it helps them work through it in their mind is basically what it does. And then the
It
final,
does.
in conclusion to that, how do you, for someone that she became aware of that, okay, that's the reason, then how do you wrap that up for that lady, for example?
Well, for that one, it's like, okay, you've looked at this, now you've got new awareness on this. How would you like to approach it, and come up with basically a project plan, for a lack of a better term? It's like, okay, let's approach this. We're not going to say, okay, you're going to switch. You've been drinking Diet Cokes for your entire life, and now starting tomorrow, you're switching to Diet Pepsi. No, it's not that extreme. Funny, I'll tell you another story for another time on that argument with somebody. But at the end of the day, it boils down to having the idea of, okay, and the confidence that I have this new awareness on something. I'm going to look at this a little bit differently. I'm going to apply this and try it. And that's the thing when I work with people. It's like, this isn't okay, wipe the slate clean. You're going to have to do it this way from now on. No, it's just like with any habit, it
Mhm.
takes time to implement. It's a different program. And they recognize, okay, I see why I think that way. Maybe I can approach it this way, and start working
Gotcha.
along those lines. And for some people, they pick it up right away. Other people, not so much. It just really depends on how deep that programming is in the language that they use, that really makes it sometimes challenging for them to get through it. But most people do.
Love it, man. Well, Michael, before I get to the final question today, which is the rocket fuel question, how can my audience engage with you further and reach out to you?
Best way to find me is breakfastleadership.com. I'm on all the social media platforms. If you look under Be Fast Leadership, or just Google hashtag breakfast leadership, you'll find a lot of stuff on there. My email is michael@breakfastleadership.com. So I'm pretty easy to find. I'm pretty engaged on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Clubhouse?
I have a Clubhouse account. I've been on one call. I didn't host it. It was actually a new author call that my buddy King hosted with a former hostage negotiator who's a
Oh,
published
cool.
author, Paul Nadeau, and that was an interesting conversation. Had it blocked on my calendar for like about 45 minutes to an hour, and it was a 2-hour call. So people
Yeah.
were jumping in and asking
Yeah. Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Had people from Hollywood jumping in. I'm like, okay, Elon Musk never did, but
Yeah.
he doesn't have to worry about books. But
Well, you have to have an exit strategy on Clubhouse. If you guys listening that haven't been in there, intentional to go in there intentionally with a purpose and an exit strategy, a time that you definitely have to leave by. Otherwise, you will get caught up in it. It's a rabbit hole, just like any
Mhm.
social media, but very, very important with this one.
Yeah.
If I may make a suggestion to you all, just intentional and exit strategy. So, Mike, With that being said, what does the rocket fuel concept mean to you, which we talk about all the time, which my book, Rocket Fuel, Convert Setbacks, Become Unstoppable. What does that mean to you, and what has it meant to you in your life?
For me, that year of worst case scenarios was the rocket fuel into a career of serving people and helping people design their ideal life. And it's amazing to me to see where I am today and what I'm doing. Because if you would have asked me this even 15 years ago that I would be doing what I'm doing today, I would have said, "You're high on something, dude. Share," because there's no way I would ever do that. Why would I go on stages? Why would I speak publicly?
Yeah.
Books. Why would I write books? Why would I have my own show? Why all these things that I get to do was not on the radar, not
Yeah.
even close. And I look back and I stand in awe and amazement of what the rocket fuel has done for me. And it's impacting lives. And thank you for acknowledging that earlier. I know it is, because the feedback that I get, and I'm just blown away that I can help people do the things that they want to do to make their life worth living. And it's just an amazing gift that I've been given to be able to do that.
I love it, man. Well, let me thank you for coming on my show. Thank you for sharing. Guys, go support Michael. If anything that you can do or any questions you have for him, shoot him a message. Let him know you heard him here, right here on the What Are You Made Of podcast. Mike, thanks for joining the show.
My pleasure. Thanks, C-Roc.
And you guys have been listening to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy, Mike C-Roc and Michael Levitt. Guys, I'm just so thankful for you guys, and I want to continue to give to you. Just go check out the Rocket Fuel coaching call Monday nights that we have. It's MikeCroc.com/coaching, MikeCroc.com/coaching. And if you're looking for the Rocket Fuel book, go get that book. It's MikeCroc.com/book. Till next time, guys, be unstoppable.